How do we solve linear equations in one variable? When we are speaking of linear equations, there are actually two forms. One of this is in terms of your variable x, or it could also be in terms of your variable x and y. But this one, we will just be dealing with this linear equation in one variable in the form ax plus b is equal to c. Now, this is a form wherein your a, b, and c are considered as constant, and only the x is the one which is considered as the variable, and that is the one thing that we have to look for or to solve. And here we have an example of this form. 2x plus 3 is equal to 11. So the thing here we need to understand is we are looking for the value of x that could actually be equivalent to 11. So if you are basically or good in math, you are and using your number sense, you will know that the x that you are supposed to have here is equivalent to 4. Because once you have 2 times 4, that will give you an answer which is equivalent to 8, plus 3 is equal to 11. But not all students could do that. Okay, so there is what we call a certain solution why we can or how we can possibly get that 4. But if you have that skill in math, that's a gift. Okay, so 2x plus 3 is equal to 11. Now, the thing that we have to consider here are these are actually two equations, or this is an equation, which means that this quantity 2x plus 3 must be equal to 11. So what are we going to understand here? This left-hand side of your equation must be equivalent to the right-hand side of your equation. And we are going to use properties so that we can separate the variables from the constant. So the thing that we are going to do now is to leave all those variables on the left-hand side of your equation, and the constant will be here on the right-hand side of the equation. So which means that your 2x is with the variable, so it will be here on the left-hand side. And since we want the negative or the positive 3 here to be removed, that simply means that you are going to subtract 3 in here. So there will be a need for us to subtract 3 on the other side because you want this to be eliminated or to be cancelled or to be equivalent to 0. But you have to be fair. So remember that this is an equation, which means that whatever you do on the left side, that has to be done on the other side. So it's like when you have a scale or a seesaw. So whatever the weight of this one should be equal to the other one, so that there is what we call balance. Now, whatever you do here, so since we subtracted 3 on this side, it has to be done on the other side of the equation. So that means since we subtracted 3 here, it should be done here also. So there is what you call minus 3 on the other side of your equation. So again, we have now 2x. Because this is now equivalent to 0, so 2x is equal to simply 11 minus 3, and the answer that we are getting there is 8. Now, we only want the value of your x. Therefore, again, we are going to use your property of equality there. So we have to do division. So you divide 2 by 2, and since we divided this left-hand side of your equation by 2, you have to do the same thing on the other side. So we are going to divide this also by 2. And doing that one, so 2 over 2 is 1. 1 times x is simply equivalent to x. And x, therefore, is equal now to 8 divided by 2. And the answer that we are getting there is 4. Okay, that's actually the answer that we gave a while ago. 2 times 4 plus 3 is equal to 11. That makes the equation correct. Now, instead of doing this process, which is actually longer, the thing that you could do is to remember that once there is a movement from the other side of your equation, you could just do or you could just change the sign, okay? But you have to remember that the property that you are doing there is the property of equality, or the addition and subtraction property of equality. So again, you can now have your bridge, and that separates the left-hand side from the right-hand side of your equation. So again, we are doing some shortcut method. So we just have to leave your variable or the numbers with your variables here. So that is simply 2x, and then is equal to, we have 11 on the right-hand side, and it stays at the right-hand side. And now there is a positive 3 here, which has to be on the right side of your equation because it's a constant. Therefore, instead of doing the plus 3 minus 3, you immediately change that sign to positive 3 and make it now to negative 3. From positive to a negative. So that could be a shorter method to do it. When then we just have to copy this. Again, the thing that we are doing now is the horizontal solution. So 2x is equivalent to 11 minus 3 is equal to 8. And so we divide this again by 2. You do the same thing on the other side. Therefore, you have now x is equal to 4. So again, we are getting the same answer. It's just that we are doing away with this because there are certain cases wherein the problems will be given in a complicated form and it will entail a lot of solutions. So this will be the shortcut process or the short process that you can apply. And again, when you do the solution or when you do the checking, how do we do the checking? You just have to go back to your equation and then try to substitute now the value that we obtain, and when that makes the equation true, therefore the solution that you got is correct. So 2 times 4 plus 3 is equal to 11, and 11 is definitely equal to 11. So that is how we can solve some linear equations in one variable. So let's have some more examples. Okay, here you are given your 2 quantity x minus 1 is equivalent to 8. Now, if you are given a certain problem like this, there is a need for us to simplify first the equation on each other's side. So for example, you have the quantity of 2 multiplied by the quantity of x minus 1. So you have to do 2 times x, so that is 2x, and then 2 times the negative 1, that is now a negative 2, and is equivalent to 8. Okay, again, this is the left-hand side, this is the right-hand side. What has to be left here will be the terms which has the variable. So we have now 2x. Now there is a need for us to have the negative 2 on the right-hand side of your equation. Therefore, the 8 will just be copied. This one will have to be negative 2 plus 2 for it to become 0. Therefore, you have to do the same thing on the other side. So therefore, we will have now the negative 2 there to be plus 2. And again, you will now have 2x. So 2x is equivalent to 8 plus 2 is now equal to 10. And dividing both sides by 2, so you always take the numerical coefficient of your x, because our purpose there is actually to find for a value of which is equivalent to 1, because by cancellation 2 or a number multiplied by itself is equal to 1, or divided, I should say. A number divided by itself is equal to 1. So 2 divided by 2 is equal to 1. So 1 times x is x, and the answer that we will be getting there is x is equal to 5. So this is now your solution to this problem. So how can we be sure that we are correct in our solution? We do the checking. So in the checking, again, we just have to take the place of your x and substitute the value that we obtain. So 2 times the quantity of 5 minus 1, and try to ask ourselves, is that equivalent to 8? Okay, so we have to use your PEMDAS rule, which means you have to do first those which are inside your parentheses. So we have now 5 minus 1 is 4 times 2 is, of course, equivalent to 8, and that is equal to 8. Now, if these are not balanced, that means the solution that you obtain is not correct. Okay, so let's have some more examples. Okay, here you have 2/3 of x plus 5 is equivalent to x minus 7. So again, what are we going to do? Let's try to separate first our left-hand side from the right-hand side. Okay, so we have now 2x plus, or 2/3 of x plus 5 on the left-hand side of your equation, and then x minus 7 on the right-hand side. Now, you have to place all your variables on the left-hand side. So the 2/3 of x will be left here. 2/3 of x. And then the positive x. So if you cannot see any sign that is understood to be positive x, so it has to be on the left-hand side. So again, there is a movement from right to left. Therefore, that becomes now a negative. So again, the reason for that is because we subtracted an x here, making it equal to 0. So to maintain the equality, you have to do the same thing on the other side, okay? Now you have a negative 7, so we just have to copy that. It's still on the right-hand side. Now there is a positive 5 here. Therefore, our aim is to subtract 5 here. Therefore, you need to do the same thing on this side. Therefore, there will be a negative 5. Now, the next thing that we have to do, you have to combine now similar terms. So what is 2/3 minus x? So answer for that is, of course, negative 1/3 of x. Now, if you are confused with that, remember the numerical coefficient of your x here is understood to be a negative 1. So this negative 1 will have to be changed into its improper form. So we have to change that negative 1 into a negative 3 over 3. Of course, a negative 1 could be negative 2 over 2, negative 5 over 5, 7 over 7, or even a million over a million. But we are choosing 3 because we want it to be similar to the other fractions that we are working with. So we have now 2/3 minus 3 over 3, and that results to negative 1/3. And then you have negative 7 minus 5. The answer that we are getting there is negative 12. If you are confused with your integers, or think of this as something that you borrow, okay, or you borrowed. So you borrowed $7, for example, and then you borrowed again $5. Therefore, you will have to, or you owe already $12. Or if that is in pesos, so 12 or 7 pesos, and then another 5 pesos, that will be 12 or negative 12. Okay? Now, you have to look into this. Negative 1/3 of x is equivalent to negative 12. So the thing here is we are multiplying a certain number by negative 1/3, and it results to this number, which is negative 12. Now, again, our purpose is for us to simply get the x. So ask yourself, what will I multiply now, or I will divide by negative 1/3, so that I will be getting your answer, which is equal to 1. So it has something to do with the reciprocal. Okay, so what is that reciprocal? Remember, any number multiplied by itself is its reciprocal, and when it's getting or giving you an answer which is equivalent to 1. So definitely the reciprocal of your negative 1/3 still negative, or is equal to negative 3 over 1. Now the purpose for that is for this to be cancelled. So the negative 3 will cancel now the negative 3, making that equal to 1. So we have now a negative 1 multiplied by a negative 1. Of course, the answer that you will be getting there is simply 1 multiplied by x. So we simply have an x. Now here, there is a need for you to maintain the equality. So whatever we do on the left-hand side, you have to do the same thing on the right-hand side of your equation. Therefore, we need to multiply this also by negative 3 over 1. Okay, so that is what we do here. And then what happens? The answer that you will be getting here is, of course, equivalent to the product of negative 12 with the negative 3. The answer is equivalent now to 36. So x is equal to 36 is the solution for this linear equation. Now we can do the checking. So how do we do the checking? Again, it will just be 2/3 of x. So our x is 36. So we will now take the value of that x, which is 36, and then plus the 5. And we are going to equate that to, again, you have x minus 7. So again, our x is 36, and that is minus 7. Okay, so again, by simple solution, you can just cancel the 3 with the 12 or the 36, which will give us now a 12. And multiplying 2 and 12, the answer that you will be getting there is 24 plus 5. That gives us an answer which is 29. And subtracting 36 minus 7, the answer is also 39. So we can say that they are equal. That means to say that our solution, x equals 36, is correct. Okay, let's have another one. Okay, this is a little complicated because there are certain things to be done on both sides of your equation. So let's do this. We have, again, to separate the left-hand side and the right-hand side. So the thing here is we need to solve first the left-hand side on, so that it will be simplified. So 3 times x. So simply you have 3x. And then 3 times 5, that becomes plus 15. And then there is plus 4. So we just copy that. And, plus 4. And then that must be equal to, we have 1. Now there is a negative 2 here being multiplied with the quantity x plus 6. So this will give us an answer which is negative 2x. And then you have there your minus 6 or minus 12, because that is negative 2 times 6. So negative 12. Okay, so as the rule says, you have to put all your variables on the left-hand side of your equation and then constant on the right-hand side, which means that your 3x and negative 2x here will be on this side. So again, your 3x, you just have to copy 3x, and then your negative 2x here, again, we are going to add 2x so that it will now be equal to 0. So there is an addition of 2x on the left side of your equation. And then for the constant, we still have 1. We just have to copy 1 minus 12. And we have 15 and 4 here. So this is positive 15, positive 4, which will now become minus 15, minus 4. Okay? If you can do it like you can add them, it's okay also before you can do the addition property or the subtraction property of equality. Now we have now your sum. So going into the solution, now we have 3x plus 2x. The answer is equivalent to 5x. And combining all this, okay, when you combine, we have a negative, negative, and another negative. So what do you get here? This is equivalent to negative 27, negative 31, and then you have a positive 1. That means the answer that you will be getting here is negative 30. Okay, again, 5x, so 5 multiplied by a certain value x is equivalent to negative 30. So again, what are we going to do? We can multiply by 1/5 or simply divide by 5. Okay, we are going to divide this by 5 so that the answer that you will be getting here is, okay, so 5 divided by 5 is already 1, and negative 30 divided by 5 is equal to negative 6. So the answer that we are getting is x is equal to negative 6. So how do we check? Oh, again, we have to go back to the original equation 3, the quantity of negative 6 and plus 5, and you have to add that to 4, and you are supposed to get an answer which is equivalent to 1 minus 2 multiplied by the quantity of your x, which is negative 6, and then plus your 6. Again, we substituted the values for the x, which is now negative 6. So adding this, you have to solve first. So we have a 3 with the negative 1. And then you have to add that to 4. Now, is that equal to 1? Minus, we have here 2. So the negative 6 and positive 6 here are additive inverses. So you have 0. 0 with the 2 multiplied by 2 is equal to 0. So any number multiplied by 0 is 0. So we have now a negative 3 plus 4. Negative 3 plus 4 is, of course, equivalent to 1. Okay, so we have here an answer which is 1. And the other side, we have here 1 minus 0 is, of course, equal to 1 also. So that is how you could solve for equations or linear equations involving one variable.